Everybody, good evening. This is Brad Sumrock live, and I'm happy to be on this evening. I'm in Eastern time. And before we get started, I would love for you guys, I could see your chats, by the way. So I would love to hear from you to see where you're zooming in from tonight. So if you want to put in the chat and I see your name pop up, I'll call you out and give you a shout out. So go ahead and type in the chat where you're dialing in from. Okay, I see Joe Harris. It doesn't say where you're from, Joe. I see Steve Pasquini from Dallas. Anybody else? Karen Collins from Dallas, North Carolina. Dallas, Texas. Abilene. Wow, somebody from Long Island, New York. Arizona. This is amazing. Anyone else outside of Texas? I see another Dallas, Melissa. Okay, well, we have, I see people from all over the place. So lots of names and locations coming in. So I'm going to keep this interactive so that I'll ask you questions from time to time. And the cool thing is I get to save the chats too. So like if there's any questions that come up or any topics that come up that I somehow miss or can't answer, then my team and I could go through the Zoom chat history and we can make sure we get back to you. Yeah, I see you, Neville from Florida. Where are you at? I'm live in Miami Beach right now, so which is my home for the last 2 years. I saw actually a really interesting statistic is Miami has more millionaires than any other city in the country, more than New York City, more than LA, more than Washington, D.C., and that just changed when I moved here. So I'm kidding. It didn't just change when I moved here. That was a joke. But anyway, so it's good to be on. And I'm excited about tonight because I am going to be doing, hey, Marilyn from Toronto. I see that. And Tyler, Texas. Okay, great. I won't be able to keep shouting out to everybody because so many people are chatting in now. But tonight I'm really excited because one of the biggest questions I get is, Brad, how do I get started with apartments with no experience? And, don't I have to start with single family and then maybe do a duplex or house hacking and live in one side and rent out the other and then somehow graduate up to doing 5 units, 10 units, and then maybe get to 30 or 40 units. And I just want to tell you, if you're thinking that, I used to think that too. And one of the things that makes me unique to talk about starting with no experience is I went from 0 units to 32 units, and I didn't buy a single family rental along the way. I didn't buy a duplex, a fourplex, an eightplex. I had no previous real estate investing experience whatsoever. The only piece of real estate I ever owned prior to buying my first apartment building was the house that I lived in. And so I bought a house that I lived in. And my only experience with apartments was I lived in one. So if you, I'm assuming tonight that, I see some of you on that I personally know that have experience, but how many people on tonight, and just type this in so I could get a feel for who you are. And I want you to know that you're in the right place and we're in a safe place and you're in the right place because I started with no previous experience either. And over the past 24 years, I've put together a portfolio worth over $1.2 billion, over 11,000 apartment units, over 67 apartment communities. So look, if I could do it, you could do it. And I'm going to walk through the steps on exactly how I did it. And maybe there's other steps, but I don't teach theory. I didn't go out and survey everybody that got into apartments or syndication. I'm going to teach you the exact steps that I went through, started with no experience. So that being said, if you have no previous real estate investing experience, maybe you bought your primary residence, but you haven't flipped a house, you haven't bought a rental house, a duplex, a fourplex, you don't Airbnb, no previous real estate experience whatsoever, investing experience whatsoever, just type in here, no experience. Type in no experience. Okay. I see Melissa, I see Penny, I see a few others. Dave, No experience yet. I love that, Dave. No experience yet. That is a powerful way to use language. Okay. Sharon, no experience. Dave, no experience. Okay. There's a lot of people here that have no experience. So what I want to share with you is that you are in the right place. Now, if you have experience, it's okay too. Okay. And by the way, if you have real estate investing experience, go ahead and drop it in the chat. Okay. I see Thomas has a duplex. Thank you for that, Thomas. Who else has some real estate investing experience, no matter how few units, no matter if it's a single family home or you do one Airbnb, go ahead and type it in here. Okay, so Karen has 2 single families, Thomas a duplex. I see, Thomas, you're stuck at that. Okay, this will be good for you as well. Shannon has a little bit. Is that Nadege has condos and single families. I see Sharon has a duplex and wholesaling. Tracy, I love your answer. I have some, but not enough. Star has 3 single families. Okay, great. And then, of course, I know you, Steve, you have 510 units. So here you are. So good to have you on. So look, I'm going to go ahead and share the slides, but and I always have slides. And my promise to you is this: we'll finish by the top of the hour. So at my time, it'll be 8 o'clock, but some of you are in Pacific, Mountain, Central, maybe even some other time zone if you're in Alaska, Hawaii, or sometimes we have people even from overseas. We have some people in Dubai or Australia. So I'm just going to say at the top of the hour, we will be finished. So hopefully you'll be able to hold out and stay present and stay focused up until then. And maybe we'll finish a little early. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and get started. So you can see tonight's title is How to Start Investing in Apartments with No Experience. So over the next, it's probably going to be 50 minutes now or 45 minutes. The first thing I want to talk to you about is the mindset shift, okay? And the questions that we ask and the way we talk to ourselves. Okay, so I'm going to talk about that because it's huge. It makes all the difference in the world. And then I'm going to share with you is, I started with no experience. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about how I started and scaled to over 11,000 units. And then I'm going to dive into like the steps I take. And there's not that many, by the way. Let's not overcomplicate this. Okay, getting started with no experience is actually pretty simple. And I'm going to outline the steps that I took that you may want to take. And then you're going to have a choice about how you're going to start. Or maybe you're going to be a passive investor, and I'm talking about multifamily buildings. So maybe you'll buy a small multi-unit with your own money. And I was able to buy 32 units with my own money, and that's how I started. I didn't start as an LP. I didn't start as a GP in a syndication. And so some of you, you'll buy your own small deal with your own money, and some of you might start off as a passive investor in syndication, and some of you could start off as a GP in a syndication. And I know because I've been working with hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands of people over the last, 13 years when I started doing my seminars and created my educational platform. And these are the 3 common ways people start. And then you got to take action. Okay, you got to be taking action. But look, it's got to be the right action and the right sequence. So if you take massive action and you take the wrong actions in the wrong sequence, you're not going to get there. Okay. And then at the end, I'm going to share with you the secret to success. So you want to stay on for that because otherwise you're going to miss everything. Not everything, but you'll miss the secret to success. So getting started with the mindset shift, the title of my tonight was How to Start with No Experience. But you know what? I want to shift that right now. We have to avoid being in this trap of asking us how, or asking yourself how. How am I going to find deals? How am I going to manage the deals? I have people in my $30,000 mastermind, right? And they don't even have a deal yet. And they're like, Brad, but how am I going to manage it? And it's that question that's holding them back. How am I going to manage a deal that I don't have when I haven't even made an offer yet? And I don't know how to find and analyze deals. Can you see how that's messing up people? Okay. So you got to ask better questions. And so the thing about how is it limits you to your own knowledge and your own skills. Like, how am I going to manage a deal? How am I going to analyze a deal? I suck at numbers. I don't know how to do spreadsheets. How am I going to find deals? I don't know any brokers. I don't know any owners. Okay. And so it's all about you and your lack of knowledge and your lack of skills. And when you ask how, it presupposes that you have to do all the work. Okay. And it's linear and slow. And so when I share with you how I started, I did everything myself for 10 years. And then I started partnering with others. And when I get to that point, you'll see, like, the first 10 years, I got 1,000 units. And the next 10 years, I got 10,000 units, because I stopped asking how I have the time and the energy and the skill and the knowledge to be able to do everything myself. Okay, so I went through 10 years of asking how. Now, in the beginning, I didn't ask how, and I'm going to share that with you. But then I actually got stuck after I started and had initial success. I was stuck in this how trap for 9 years, 8 years. Okay, so it's linear, it's slow, it requires you to do the work, and then all it does is that it exposes your limitations, and we all have limitations on time, on knowledge, and skills. It's too many steps. Okay, and it can be overwhelming. And this is why so many people start small, or they don't start at all. Well, I'd love to do apartments, but man, I don't know how I'd ever do that. These must be owned by billionaires. I'm going to go flip a house. And now you're limited. Okay. So what do we ask instead of how? We ask why. Okay. Why must I invest in apartment buildings? Why must I be committed to learning to invest in apartments? Okay, so when I started, I read Robert Kiyosaki's book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I played the cash flow game. And the cash flow game was about what? Getting out of the rat race. And so I went to a seminar and I learned 2 real estate investing techniques. I learned single family rentals and I learned multifamily rentals. And I decided to start in multifamily rentals. Okay. And my why was to make $10,000 a month. And why was that so important? Is I struggled in corporate America for 14 years. Fired once, laid off once, 5 different companies, job hopping, trying to climb the corporate ladder, never really amounted to my potential. Okay. I had a boss that told me I wasn't going anywhere, that I'd never amount to anything. Okay. And he's still working at Chevron Texaco, probably making $250 a year, which isn't a bad income, but like I've made that in a day. Not every day, but there have been days I made what he makes in a year. So when I started, I was like, I read the book, I went to the seminar, and I didn't ask how, because I knew I would have been trapped. Okay. When I started, I didn't know how to find deals. I didn't know how to analyze deals. I didn't know how to fund deals, and I didn't know how to manage deals. But what I knew is that I knew in my head that there were other people out there buying real estate and quitting their jobs and becoming financially free. I met some of these people. Robert Kiyosaki was one of those people, right? And so I learned from other people, and I asked, why must I do this? So you can see my why. Okay. So you guys, instead of asking how, you might want to say, why do I want to invest in apartment buildings? Or why do I want to do real estate? And once you want to do real estate, well, why apartments versus flipping houses or Airbnb or single family or, self-storage or whatever you want to do. Okay. But I had this why of $10,000 a month, and I decided that apartments was the vehicle to get there. And I'm not going to read all my bullet points, but you can see it's like my why. I had a number. It was 10K a month. It was to get out of the corporate rat race. It was to have cash flow to pay for my life, to enjoy my life. And the thing is, when you have a strong enough why, you act, you stop hesitating. And unfortunately, for some of us, we have to go through pain before we have a strong enough why. I worked in corporate America for 14 years, and it was painful for me. And finally, I hit a threshold. It was when I got fired or laid off or lost my job for the second time after I had 2 degrees. And I made a commitment. I said, never again am I going to put my career in the hands of a company. So I did get another job, but this is when I went out and learned real estate and committed to be a real estate investor, an apartment investor. Okay, so you have to ask yourself why. And then the next thing you got to ask yourself is who. Okay, and you don't need to go read this book, but you might want to. But this book is really powerful. It's called Who, Not How. Okay, because when you ask who, now you get to connect to somebody else's knowledge, somebody else's skill, somebody else's insights. Okay, and you get faster results. You may have heard of like other people's money, right? Have you heard of OPM, other people's money? Yes, could you let me know? Have you heard of OPE, other people's experience, other people's knowledge, other people's skills, other people's insights? Okay. So when you ask who, it's so much more powerful than how. Who can help me find deals? Who can help me analyze deals? Who can help me get the loans? Who can help me raise the money? Who can help me manage the deals? Okay, who can teach me a system? Who could coach me and guide me? So when you start asking who, you get faster results. You connect to different people that have different knowledge, skills, and experience. It frees up your time so you don't have to figure out the how for everything. It expands your vision to what's possible. And here's the key: who already knows how? Like if you say, how am I going to find deals? Ask yourself, who already knows how to find deals? How am I going to manage deals? Who already knows how to manage the deals? How am I going to raise the money? Who already knows how to raise the money? Or who can help me raise the money? Or who can teach me how to raise the money? So this is what I want to impress upon you, ladies and gentlemen. Who is the how? Who is the how? Okay. So hopefully we've already learned something. So why and who are much more powerful than how. Okay. So now I want to share with you my why. I already shared with you, and I'm going to share with you my who and the steps that I took. And then we're going to finish, and I'm going to tell you the next steps for you to take, or suggest, not tell. I'm going to suggest the next steps for you to take. And we're going to finish the outline. So you already know this about me. I already shared it with you. My first property ever, starting with no experience, was 32 doors. And now I've had I have about 7,500 now, but I was up to over 11,000 at one point, over 1.2 billion. And I started doing mentoring and coaching and building a community and running a mastermind program, because I've been in masterminds. That's how I started. I got educated. I hired a mentor. I joined a community. And then any area in my life that I wanted to grow, I would do the same thing. It was a formula. It's like, hey, if I wanted to have a better body, I didn't just join a gym. Okay, I joined the gym, but I hired a coach, I hired a nutritionist, and I joined a community so that I would have support. Okay, anything in my life, when I wanted to be a public speaker and do events, I hired a coach. I joined the community of other people so we could learn from each other. And I was in a mastermind. So like these were the steps that I went through. So I didn't just do it on my own. I was like, who could help me? Who could teach me? Who could guide me? Who already knows how to do what I'm doing? Okay. And how do I leverage them? So this is how I was able to do all this. This is a picture of my first 32 units, this beautiful brown building right here. And what I want to share with you is this is a 5-part series. Hopefully you know that. So the next training that I'm doing next week is I'm going to talk to you about how you can start buying with your own money a small apartment building. So I'm not going to go through the details tonight, but next week I'm going to break down the step-by-step process of the pros and cons of buying your own deal with your own money. And I'm going to break down the numbers for this exact 32-unit deal for you. And I'm going to walk you through the steps of how to find the small deals and how to buy them and manage them. And I'm going to tell you how I manage mine, the good, the bad, and the ugly. So that's going to be next week. Okay. So I bought 32, I bought 30, and then I was out of money. And then a broker brought me a 250 unit. This was the second deal I bought. This was my first 32, and then this was 30, and then I was out of money. And then a broker brought me a 250 unit. And the long story short is I raised money from other people. Okay. And I didn't know how to raise money, but I was around other people that knew how to raise money. So I got the confidence, the coaching, the training, the support, and I raised money. I didn't know how. I just did it because I had that. I had the confidence, the coaching, the training, support. So I bought 250 units with other people's money, quit my job. And since then, I've bought over 11,000 units. And then I got kind of stuck in how again? Well, how do I scale? And how do I do everything myself? And I'm buying like one deal every other year. And then I launched my event company and my coaching company in 2012. And you could see like the first 10 years, I did 1,000 units. And that might seem like a lot to you, but like it just, at the time, it seemed like a lot because I was doing everything. And I got stuck again, asking myself how. And then in 2012, I did my first conference and I launched my education program. And then I was really stuck because I'm like, how am I going to do deals and do an education and mentoring and mastermind business? How am I going to do all this? And then I shifted again. I'm like, oh my God, Brad, why must I do this? And who can help me? And then I realized I needed co-GPs. I need partners. I needed the speaking coach. I needed all these other resources. And when I started asking myself, why and who again in 2012, see, I asked that in the beginning and I had success. I quit my job, but then I got stuck, just like so many people get stuck. And then I asked why and who, and then I grew to over 11,000 units, okay, by scaling and working with other people and delegating and building teams and implementing systems, okay? So that's the key to scaling is who and why and not doing everything yourself. So look, my journey, it's pretty simple. Looking back, it took me 24 years to figure it out. And I'll be authentic with you. I'm still figuring it out. Like, I don't know everything about apartment buildings and about apartment investing. I know more than most people, but I don't know everything. And by the way, I would never hire a coach or mentor that told me he or she knows everything because nobody knows everything. There's always something that somebody hasn't seen, you know? And so I've done a lot of deals and I've helped a lot of people and I've invested millions of dollars of my time and money in this business. Okay. So that's who I am for those of you that never met me before and came here somehow without ever meeting me. Okay. So my mentoring company that does events and coaching, we have a big why, you know, and it's, I want to impact humanity. And let's start with 1 million people. So I've helped many, many people become financially free, investing in apartment buildings and learning my system. And the cool thing about it is I specialize in the B and C class. So this is where like the working class and middle class people live. I don't buy buildings that are high rises that go like this. My buildings are like 2 or 3 story garden style buildings that are built in the 1970s, 80s, and 90s, where working class and middle class people live. So, you know, me and my investors do well with money for ourselves. Then the cash flow and they go up in value and we pay little to no tax. And we make the communities a cleaner and better and safer place to live for the people that live there. So I love the business. And that's just a picture of one of our communities that we have in the Sunrock community with 828 members. Okay, so there's a lot of people in my community doing deals. So getting back to what to do next. So we talked about asking better questions. We talked about not focusing on the how, focus on your why and the who. Okay, but now you got to get educated. So there's a lot of ways to get educated. You can listen to podcasts. You can go to free meetups. There's free content on YouTube, Instagram. There's ChatGPT. There's Claude. There's OpenClaw. Okay, there's books. And I've done them all and I do them all. But let me just tell you this. There's no substitute There's no substitute for an in-person specialized education conference or course. Okay. All these things are fine. So I'm not here to tell you don't listen to podcasts and don't go to free meetups and don't watch YouTube and don't use AI and don't read books. I mean, I just showed you I'm reading a book now. And I shared with you that how I got started is I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. But let me tell you something. It wasn't the book that changed my life. It was the action I took. The book gave me idea that said, wow, I'm an employee. I want to be a business owner or an investor. And then Kiyosaki said real estate is low barrier to entry. So I'm like, okay, I want to do real estate. But then I went to an in-person specialized real estate investing conference that was taught by a who. Okay. And when I say a who, there was somebody there that wasn't me that had knowledge, skill, experience, and insights that I didn't have. Okay. So that's how I got started. Now, the thing is, so many people get educated and then they stop. They get stuck. And look, I was an engineer with an MBA. So that makes me a left-brained thinker, right? Many of you on here may also be left-brained because we tends to attract like. So just let me ask you this. How many engineers, MBAs, accountants, financial people are on tonight? Just type in, what do you do for a living? I just want to see if I'm attracting people that are like me. I would love to just have you type it in. Network engineer. Yep, you're a how guy, Thomas. Engineer George, engineer Tracy, MBA Christopher, financial analyst David, RN Sharon, chiropractor Melissa, Steve, finance, insurance, accounting. Look, the vast majority of you were just like me or just like me. We ask how, we want to know all the answers. You know, we want to do as much as we can for free. I know you because that was me. Okay. And we tend to want to do everything ourselves because we're smart, and we're motivated. And oh my God, chemical engineer Josh with an MBA. That was exactly me. I was a chemie from Carnegie Mellon and got an MBA from the University of Houston. So, I mean, look, guys, I hope you see how much alike we are. Okay. And this is why I want to share with you exactly what I did. So you can only get so far listening to podcasts and meetups and YouTube. And the other thing is ask yourself again, who am I listening to? Who am I listening to? And what are their skills? What are their experiences? What are their intentions? What are their motivations? But really, what are their skills and insights? And if you listen to 100 different people, you may get 100 different tips and strategies and steps, and then you have confusion. So at some point, you got to decide who you're going to listen to. Who are you going to learn from? And it doesn't have to be me. Maybe for some of you, it will be me. And I know some of you on here are my mentoring and mastermind students. And I'm honored to be in that position. And obviously, one of the reasons I'm doing this event tonight is that, I would love to have the opportunity to be that who for you, but it doesn't have to be me. Okay. But the point is, get educated. There is no substitute to being in person, in the room, in a specialized educational conference. What do I mean by specialized education? If you want to learn apartment investing, don't go to a general real estate investing event where you're going to learn, 27 types of real estate. If you want to learn 27 different types of real estate and be exposed to a lot of different strategies, honestly, then don't come to my event because I'm going to teach you apartment investing. Okay. And I'm not saying don't come to my event, but if you want to learn a specialty skill, you got to go to that type of event. Okay. So there's a lot of events that are for generalists and there's a lot of events for specialists. And I want to teach you something else about what I learned about making money is the riches are in the niches. Okay. If you want to make special kind of money, you got to be a specialist. If you want to make general kind of money, you could be a generalist. I'm honest. Tony Robbins would say it, the riches are in the niches. Okay. Be a specialist. Like, who makes more money in medicine? A general practitioner or a cardio surgeon or an ophthalmologist? Like, the specialist always makes more than the generalist. Okay. So I decided to specialize in apartment buildings, and I've been doing it for 24 years, and I haven't done any other asset class. Maybe that makes me boring, but it also makes me a specialist. Okay. So get educated and find a who. Who will you listen to? And so the next one is going to be get in the right rooms. Okay. You've probably have all heard this. Tony Robbins talks about it in a different way. He says proximity is power. Like, who you have proximity to is going to be your biggest power. And that's going back again to who. Okay. Who? The guy that wrote this book, by the way, Dan Sullivan, has been the coach. Like, Dan Sullivan created the 10X concept. Grant Cardone made it famous, but Dan Sullivan created the 10X. He said, when you think 10X or 100X, it forces you to think and act differently than when you think incrementally. You think exponentially, and then it forces you not to ask how, because you can't grow your business by 100% doing everything yourself with your skill set and your capacity. But when you start asking who can help me, who I can learn from, who has already done this that I can leverage or partner with or collaborate with or learn from or have proximity to. Okay. So I went to a 2-day seminar. I got educated, and then I hired a mentor. I joined many, many masterminds. If I wanted to be a speaker, I was in a speaker mastermind. I was in a real estate mastermind. I was in a mindset mastermind. I've been members of communities ever since literally 2002 for 24 years. It's one of my secrets to success. And the advantage of having a mentor and being in masterminds and being in communities is that you're learning from other people that are doing it. Okay, you get confidence. You see people doing deals. They're not any better than you. In fact, I have a secret if I want to share with you. Like, when I joined this mentoring community in 2002, and I saw people doing deals, I'm like, hey, man, I'm smarter than some of these people. You all know what I'm saying. You all are engineers, MBAs, doctors, accountants. I know that you think you're smart. I know you do. And you should, because to get that kind of degree, you are smart. But the thing is, the smartest people with the highest GPAs aren't always making the most money. My friend Kenny McElroy, who runs the MC companies and is a rich dad advisor to real estate, he has a license plate on his Ferrari and it says C student. And I said, Kenny, why do you have a license plate that says C student? And he goes, well, Brad, A students work for C students, like in the real world. So I was like, oh my God, like, that's kind of true. Like, I remember one of my high school friends that barely graduated from high school. And 5 years after high school, he was making so much more money than me. And he was a salesperson and then started his own company and was an entrepreneur. And I was an engineer making $60K a year, So when you have a mentor, when you have a who, when you're in a mastermind, when you're in a community, you see real deals. You learn from other people's mistakes. You get confidence. You realize people doing deals, they're not any better than you. They're just taking different actions. Maybe they're more committed. Maybe they have better habits. They have like different routines, and you can learn from them. And then, they say you become like the 5 people you spend the most time with. So who are you spending time with? Are you spending time with people that, go to work Monday and hate their job? And work for the weekends and talk about Wednesday being over the hump day? And is that your life? Or do you talk about people that think going into business and real estate is risky and that's why you haven't done it? Or are you hanging around with people that are doing big deals? Because I guarantee you, if you were, you'd be doing deals. Okay. And you'd have confidence. Okay. So you got to get in the right rooms. You got to get educated. You got to get in the right rooms. You got to ask how. You got to ask who. No, not ask how. You got to ask why, and you got to ask who. So then you got to pick a path. Okay. When we get into apartments, you got to decide where you're going to start. So I started buying my own deals with my own money, which is individual and direct. And again, all next week, that's all I'm going to talk about is how to buy your own small deal with your own money. And I'm sure I'll cover some of the other topics too later on. but I'm going to talk a little bit about it tonight, that you could start as a passive investor in somebody else's deal. You could be a GP or a deal sponsor, meaning like you're putting the deal together and you're raising the money and you're doing all the work, or you could buy your own deals with your own money. Okay. So again, next week, it's on May 6th. When we put out the 5 series advertisement, we said it was May 5th, but due to my scheduling change, I'm going to do it May 6th. Same time, same place, same channel, 6 p.m. And so make sure you don't have to register. If you're already here tonight or watching the recording, I believe in Sunrock Support, you can tell me if this is accurate, but you don't need to register again for this if you're already here tonight. And so if you want to learn how to buy your first or your next deal with your own money, like a small apartment building, whether it's 5, 10, 15 units, I'm going to walk you through that. And I'm going to walk through the differences, the pros and the cons, how to find them, how to analyze them, and how to manage them. Okay. So we're going to talk about that next week. So I want to get back to the starting as a passive investor and starting as a GP or a deal sponsor. And so to do that, I want to just talk about how we make money. And so you've heard of the term mailbox money, right? And so when we invest money in a deal, we should make a return on that money. And the return on that money comes from 3 ways. One is it comes from cash flow. 2 is it comes from a capital event at some point in the future, which is a sale or a refinance. And 3 is we get a depreciation loss allocated to us in the year we buy the deal. So that's how money makes money. And Kiyosaki taught me that, the rich don't work for money, that the rich invest in assets, and then the assets make them money. Okay, so this is mailbox money. So like, look, if you want to be an LP and put money into a deal, and if the deal performs as projected, there's going to be cash flow, there's going to be a sale or a refinance at some point in the future, and there's going to be a depreciation allowance. And I'll just be perfectly authentic with you. Like, I'm working on a deal right now, and if somebody wants to be an LP, I could send you the information. It's for accredited investors only, and you would just need to type in invest, and I could send you it, and you can look at it. Only do it if you're interested. Like, I don't need to send you all the information if you're just kicking the tires, but if you're genuinely interested in investing in a nice deal, you could type in the word invest, and I could send you the information, and we could hop on a call. So you could type that in as if you want to start as an LP, and I could help you get going with that right now, honestly. So that's an option for some people. So, and then besides that, you could be a GP, or a co-GP, and the GPs are the partners that do the work. Okay. And the work that GPs do is they find the deals, they analyze the deals, they make the offers, they negotiate the deals, they raise the money, they secure the debt, they close the deal, manage the rehab, the renovation, the investors, everything. And because you're doing all the work, there's fees that the market will pay you. Okay. So this is where if you get stuck on the how, though, you're going to get stuck. You can look at this and be like, oh my God, how am I going to do all that? Now, the question is, why must I be a GP? Because I'm going to show you on the next slide how much money you can make, And so why must I commit to learning these skills so that I can have the financial results of being a GP? And then the next question is, who can help me? Whether it's partners, a mentor, a coach, a community, a mastermind, like who can I leverage to get me there faster and make less mistakes? Okay. Because if you ask how, you're going to get stuck. I promise you. And again, when I got started, I bought 32 units and 30 units, and I was off to the races to early retirement, and I was doing bigger deals, and I was doing all of this myself. And I actually got stuck for years. I'm doing like one deal at a time. I'm like, man, I don't have any time, and it's hard, and like, how do I do all this? And how, now I got 3 deals closed, and I'm trying to buy another deal, and how. And oh my gosh, if I could have just had somebody tell me, Brad, you're asking the wrong questions. The question is who and why. I could have gone so much bigger faster. but I figured it out and after 2012, and that's when I scaled. The first 10 years I did 1,000 units. The next 10 years I did 10,000 units because I asked different questions. Okay. But if you want to be a GP, and this is just a diagram of like a typical deal of a deal that performs as projected. And you can see the second row and the fifth row, the numbers are the same. The second row is the cash return on the money invested. And the fifth row is the gain at the sale on the money invested. And you can see it's the same, 4,000 in both cases, 20,000 in both cases. But then the other rows are the fees that go to the GPs for doing the work. So there's the acquisition fee, the 20% split of the sales proceeds, the asset management fee, and then the 20% split of the cash flow. And so you can see on the same deal, if a passive investor or an LP puts in 50,000 and a GP puts in 50,000, the LP is going to walk away with 90K and the GP is going to walk away with 910K. So everyone looks at this and it's like, oh my God, I want to be a GP. But then you got to realize it takes a lot of work. And again, I'm telling you, you got to ask who, not how. Who could help me? Who must my partners be? Who's going to help me do this? Who's going to teach me the system? Okay. So let me ask you this, going back to this slide here. I'm just curious, put in the chat, now that I covered this, and some of you may not know. And if you don't know, that's a fourth option. But where do you think you want to start? So the first question is just type in solo. That would be doing your own small deal. The second one would be LP, which is passive investor. The third one is GP. And then the last one is I don't know. And go ahead and drop it in the chat because I want to see where you guys are at. And I don't know is a perfectly honest answer. Like when I started, if I were in many of your shoes right now and someone asked me this at this point in the game, I might have said, I don't know. Okay. So Melissa is no GP, Penny is solo, Jedrick is GP, Michael is GP, Sharon's GP, Vincent's working toward a GP. Tracy, I don't know. Thank you for being honest. And it's okay not to know at this point. Dave, it's okay not to know at this point. Like you're still in discovery. And I respect that. You don't have to know at this point. Okay. So again, if anybody knows they want to be an LP, which is a passive investor, I have a beautiful deal in Plano, Texas that I'm working on with great returns, and I'd be happy to send you the information. And again, just type in invest and I'll send it to you. A few of you have already done that. So we could see if that is a way for you to get started, because look, I'm all about action. Okay. So I have 10 minutes left to fulfill my promise of being done at the top of the hour. So after you get educated, okay, and after you find out your who and you be in the right rooms, you got to take action. But the actions you take and the order in which you take them are important. So I'm going to go through this quickly. You got to determine your why. You got to update your personal financial statement or develop it, which is your assets and liabilities. You got to learn the business model of multifamily investing. You want to define your acquisition criteria. Where, what size, what property class, what business model, for example, like I just had a student say, Brad, I want to buy 15 to 40 units 2 hours from my house in Denver, Colorado. Okay, well, that's specific. He's got a criteria. Now we can help him find deals. Okay, build your team, your attorney, your property management company, your accountant, your contractors. Then you find deals. Then you analyze deals. Okay, then you visit the property, or somebody on your team visits the property. Again, this doesn't have to be you. You want to, everybody, if you don't have who's, I'm gonna keep going like that until you get who's. Like, who on your team can visit the property if it's not you? So just know when I give you this sequence, it doesn't have to be you, it has to be who. There has to be a who. And maybe you're somebody else's who in some capacity, and somebody is your who. Okay. So visit the property, make the offer, negotiate the deal, sign the contract, do your inspection period, your due diligence, raise the capital, get the loan, close the deal, manage the deal, exit the deal, celebrate, woohoo. You made a lot of money, you returned a lot of money to your investors, go on a vacation, celebrate, and then you get back Monday and you get back to work and you repeat and you scale. So look, man, this is what I've been doing for 24 years. Okay. And so I know I went fast here, but you can take a screenshot of this slide here and just know, like, there's actions that you need to be taking, and there's a sequence, a proper sequence to be taking the actions. So I want to leave you with this in the last 10 minutes. Look, I'll also be honest and authentic with you. I've been all night. Most people are not going to do deals. Even most people on here tonight are not going to do deals. Most people were here to looky-loo and learn and say, hey, this was good, and they're going to go back to their life. Most people overthink. Most people ask how. They get stuck in how. Most people were wondering if it's the right time. You know, I mean, there's the Iran war is going on now. I was actually going to do, my first training was going to be how the Iran war is impacting apartment investing and commercial real estate. But honestly, the big picture is it's just creating more uncertainty. And the thing I will tell you is the more uncertainty there is, the more opportunity there is. So there's more people waiting now than ever before, probably since the pandemic. When the pandemic first hit, everybody thought that, you know, nobody's going to pay the rent and all that kind of stuff. And it turned out to be the best time to be investing in the last 10 years. And now it's the best time again since COVID hit. But most investors are on the sidelines. So people ask how, they're overthinking, they're worried about the economy, they're waiting for the right time. They don't have guidance, they don't have a system, they don't have a community or a supportive environment, or they're simply just, they're excited and they're taking action, but they're doing things wrong. They're doing the wrong actions, the wrong direction, and the wrong sequence, and it's not going to be effective. And so this is why I do what I do. Like, I get asked all the time, Brad, like, could you help me with this? And of course, the answer is yes. So this is what I do. And the secret is you got to learn a system and a framework. So when I go back to getting educated and finding a who, like, I have been that who for thousands of people, and hundreds of people that I've helped since 2013 have started with no experience. Hundreds and hundreds have quit their jobs and become multimillionaire real estate apartment investors. Okay. So I'm uniquely qualified to talk about this because I am that who and that how for many, 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 many people. And I can do the same for you. So I teach a system, and a system is very simple. So if you remember those 20 steps of the Sumrock sequence, I've taken it and I broke it into 4 easy steps. Number 1 is you got to understand the deal, the business model, the numbers, the formulas, the terminology, NOI, cap rate, T12, all those types of things. And I teach that. Number 2 is now you go find deals. And when you find them, you got to analyze them. So that's step 2. Step 3 is funding, which is raising the money or getting the money or raising the money. Whether you're buying your own deals or if you're syndicating, then you got to raise money from other people and get loans. So I teach that step. And then everything from closing and managing and exiting the deal. And look, I do all this in a 2-day event. And so my next 2-day event is coming up in June in Dallas. And here's the good news. It's complimentary. Okay. So, like, look, I know that it's not complimentary for you to fly to Dallas. And I know it's not complimentary for you to stay in a hotel, but the 2-day tuition and education with which other people in my industry literally charge thousands of dollars, or at least hundreds and hundreds of dollars. And they got different levels of tickets that could be thousands of dollars for their 2-day event. And they don't have the experience that I have. They don't have the track record that I have. And they don't have the heart and passion that I have. Okay. And maybe there is better marketers than me, to be honest. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe they're better promoters and marketers of their events than I am of mine. Okay. And that's to my disadvantage, but that's to your advantage. And so, look, I'm going to teach you my whole 4-step system, and it's complementary. And so what you're going to learn in 2 days is how to find deals, how to analyze deals, how to fund deals, how to close deals, how to manage deals. I'm going to put you on a bus on half of day 2, and I'm going to show you a property that I own and the property that one of my students just purchased. Okay. So you're going to learn my proven system on how to do this. And there's a QR code here. So like, look, honestly, like everybody should be scanning the code and registering because it's free. And the only reason you wouldn't want to do that is if you just said, Brad, like, I don't want to do apartments. I'm just here to learn and listen and looky-loo tonight and hear what you have to say. I have no interest in learning from you. Or you don't like my teaching style, but I'm going to dive in and I'm going to teach you the whole system. And then you'll notice there is a platinum ticket option for, a couple $100. And I would recommend that, by the way, that you get the platinum ticket, and it's only priced at $197, but that was a mistake. And I told my team it was supposed to be $297, but we couldn't fix the page. And so like after tonight, I'm going to fix the platinum ticket to $297 because that's what I want to charge for it. And what we're doing for platinums is you get better seating, and you get a special bonus session with me, and you get a lunch with me, and you get a one-on-one coaching call. Okay. So that's $297, but we have it on the registration page at $197. So if you buy it for $197, I'm going to give it to you for $197, or you come for free. Okay. So look, this event is exactly 60 days away, the second day, because today is April 28th, unless you're watching the recording, and the event is 60 days from now. So like everybody here should be scanning the code and coming as my complimentary guest. And why am I doing this? Because like, look, you guys took the time to come on tonight. This advertisement and this email went out to thousands and thousands and thousands of people. And there's only a couple hundred of you on. And I know not all of you are going to come, and not all of you may be able to come, but like those of you that are coming, you're going to be glad you did, because I don't hold anything back over these 2 days. I hold nothing back. I give you everything I got in 2 days. Okay. So you're going to walk away with a lot. Okay. Now, the only other thing I have to say is this is 60 days out, and people that want to win big don't want to wait 60 days. Like if I told you I wanted to get in shape, but I'm going to start 60 days from now, you'd probably laugh at me, right? Like, why wouldn't I start right now, or at least on Monday? Or at least tomorrow. But if I said, hey guys, I'm really excited and committed about getting in shape, but I'm going to start June 27th, most people would be like, yeah, Brad, whatever. So I have another option for people that want to get a head start on winning. And like this is only for you if you really want to get a head start and you're ready to start now and not wait until June 27th. And what that is and what that looks like is you learn my complete system now. Okay. And so what I call it is acquisitions to asset management. You got to learn A to A, the acquisition all the way through managing the asset and everything in between. And what that looks like is it's the exact steps. Okay. You get educated. You're going to learn my system. You're going to learn how to analyze deals, and you're going to get a personalized implementation plan. So what the A to A system is you can see if you look on this, what it includes is you get 2 tickets to my event. Okay. You get 2 platinum tickets. So you'll still come June 27th and 28th. But what you get is far more than that. Okay. Number one is you get 4 trainings in detail where you could start right now on finding, funding, closing, and managing deals. And these are trainings that I've personally done, and you have instant access to those trainings. And then just as important or more important is you get my proprietary underwriting tool, what I call the Sumrock Property Analyzer, which I only provide to people that are in my $30,000 mastermind. Okay. And I'm including it in this system. And so what this looks like is if you buy the A to A system today, you get the trainings that you could start today. And by the way, it's lifetime access to the 4 trainings. You get the property analyzer, lifetime access. Okay. You get to come to the June 27th, 28th event in the platinum section. And then after the event, we do a personalized coaching call tailored to where you're at. We meet you to where you're at, and we help you implement after the event so you're not implementing alone. And if you bought all these things individually, it'd be thousands and thousands of dollars. And I want to offer the A to A system today for only $497. And there's a QR code here. So again, this isn't for everybody. I want to make sure everybody knows you could come to my event for free. Okay. So everybody needs to be doing that. But if you want to get started right away, and here's the other thing. At my event, I do have 1-year programs. You already heard me mention a $30,000 mastermind. I have another program for $6K. Anyone who buys this A to A system for roughly $500, if you invest in my other systems that are a higher value, I'm going to give you double the credit. So let's say you come to my event and you want to be in my $30,000 community, I'm going to give you $1,000 credit, not just $500. Okay. So, and if you buy another one of my programs for $6,000 at some point in the future, I'm going to give you $1,000 credit, not just $500. So this A to A system really is, if, like I said, if I told you I want to get in shape and I said, I'm going to start June 27th, I don't know, like how serious you would take that. So I'm not saying you're not serious if you wait until June 27th. I'm not saying that at all. I know we're all busy and I know life gets in the way, but that's why I'm saying for those of you that want to get a head start, that want to get a head start on winning, that realize like I do, that we have a window of opportunity right now, especially with the Iran war and there's no, who knows what's going to happen with the ceasefire. I'm going to tell you what's going to happen. As soon as we have a ceasefire and a peace treaty, and oil prices are going to go back down, and then certainty is going to go up. And right now, I'm seeing deals that I haven't seen in a decade. Okay. And I've been seeing them before the Iran war, but the Iran war started and things got even a little bit more uncertain, which is creating more opportunity. So this is why I'm moving fast on this deal that I'm buying. We're trying to get this deal closed. And you know what we did on the deal that I'm buying in Plano? Because of the Iran war, we went back to the seller and we just got $2 million off the price. It was at $39 million and now we're down to 37. And we were able to do that because we were able to say, hey, it's harder to raise money. Our investors are on the sidelines and we need a better price. So we don't have to raise as much money, which wasn't entirely true, wasn't entirely a fabrication. But the point is we're able to take where we're at in the market right now and get the best price and the best terms ever. Okay. And you'll be able to do the same thing. So for some of you, you're going to want to take advantages of this incredible offer of the A to A system. And again, it has lifetime access to the 4 trainings and lifetime access to my property analyzer. So you can invest in this system and never see me again. And you'll have the tools and the trainings and the analyzer that I've personally used and my students use that have bought over $10 billion of apartments. And you'll have that same property analyzer tool. So again, I'm finishing up here. It's past the top of the hour. Next week, I'm going to talk about buying your own small apartment building with your own money. And some of you are asking again for the QR code. So this is the QR code if you're just coming to the June training event. Okay. And it's free. So again, this is a no-brainer. Rearrange your schedule, rearrange your life. If you're still here right now, which most of you are, because I can see very few of you have left. So I know I have your attention and I know you want more from me. And so rearrange your calendars, rearrange your life, be in Dallas, absolute minimum, be in Dallas June 27th and 28th. Actually, we're going to start the evening of the 26th. So you'll actually come in on Friday, the 26th. So Some Rock team, we need to update this because what I just did is I added a special intro session the 26th, and then we're going to do networking. So you're going to come in Friday, June 26th. We're going to start late in the afternoon on the 26th and then go 2 full days, the 27th and 28th. Okay. And you could come complimentary, no strings attached. For the A to A system, there's another QR code. And this is $497. And again, this is for people that are ready, that are excited, that want a head start to winning. And you'll get an incredible deal. Like, and I'm not offering this in the future, like at this price point. So the 4 trainings, lifetime access, the property analyzer, lifetime access, a one-on-one call after the event, one-on-one, not one to many, like you and my key person on my team. Okay. And then 2 platinum tickets. So hopefully this was valuable to you. Hopefully you guys are excited and motivated and got a lot of information. And I hope that I'm going to see all of you in Dallas and some of you in the A to A system as well. So thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. It's 5 minutes after the hour. I went a little over. I hope that's okay. But I know I'm not going to, I know it's not going to be the last time I see you. And let me just type in here, how many of you are going to come to the Rat Race event? Just type in R2R, Rat Race to Retirement, if you're coming to R2R in Dallas. Go ahead and type it in. That's amazing. Yeah, a lot of you are doing that. And look, if you're buying A to A, you should be buying it. Okay, if you're on the edge, buy it. If you're on the edge, get off the edge. It's $500. You know, don't go out to dinner this week a few times, and it'll pay for your A to A system. You know, and I promise you it's worth it. And if you buy the AA system and you don't like it, if it's not valuable to you, if the trainings you don't like the trainings and the property analyzer, like, I'll refund your money. Like, I put my money where my mouth is on my products. Okay. So anyway, tune in next week if you want to learn how you can buy your own small apartment deal with your own money. And with that, I'm going to wish you good night.